Hey there, this is Jonathan, and in the following tutorial we're going to take a look at how to create your setup for digital media in Illustrator. Now I'm using Illustrator CC 2014, and I do want to point out there's some awesome new tools in here, and you can explore them in the welcome screen that's here in Illustrator. Now if you had ever closed this, you can always get back to it by going to Help Welcome. So anyway, let's create a new document. When we go to create this new document, we've got a number of different settings here, or presets, or profiles. We've got ones for print. We also have ones for web. When you click on print, you'll notice that it puts you in points as your units and your CMYK as your color. Make sure that you can see that in the advanced panel. Now if you go to web, you'll notice it changes you to RGB, and it changes your raster effects, and it aligns new objects to the pixel grid, which is a new feature in CC, which is really cool. But you're getting pixel dimensions here rather than points. Now if you go to devices, it gives you preset sizes for different devices, which are set to pixels as well, and RGB and all that kind of stuff. And let's see, if you go to video, then it'll be set up for video, which we're not going to do right now. So I'm going to go back to print. Now with print, a couple of things I want you to be aware of. If you change it to inches, this is more of an American standard to actually use inches. We refer to a page by the inches size, 8.5 by 11 inches. Now if you change that back to points, then if you look at the numbers, what's going on here is that you're dividing each inch into 72 individual points. Now that means if you need to do something like half an inch, it would have to be 36 points. So you just have to keep that in your memory if you choose to use points. I'm going to go ahead and use inches because it's kind of the American standard. Now the other thing we're going to do is change this to RGB color, and the reason why is because we want to make sure that we are choosing those rich of colors as we can, and a lot of the things that we're going to design are actually going to be for screen rather than for print. When we need something to print out, then we might convert it to CMYK color, but only when we really need. Now we'll keep the raster effects at high resolution, and our preview will be set to default. And this is kind of a new feature, the align new objects to pixel grid. And what that does is that makes sure that things are like hitting directly on pixels. It doesn't matter as much here, but it certainly matters when we use any of the pixel-based design stuff, like if we want to do something for screen. I think that's really important. So I think let's turn it on and just see how it goes. Hit OK. And now here's another thing I'm going to do. I'm going to expand the tools on the left so that they're two side by side. I think that's a little bit more common that you see in the tutorials, at least from Linda, and even from me. I should probably do it that way. Now we have our main drawing tools and selection tools and distortion tools and all other types of tools and our main colors over here. Now we also have things like gradients and setting our fills and strokes to none, and we have new drawing modes including draw in front, draw behind, and draw inside, which we'll have to explore. Then we have up here, which is our preset, or not preset, this is our properties panel, I guess. And right now it's showing me what the properties of a new object would look like when I draw it. If I wanted to change this to something else, then I could make my new object that I draw have 2 points instead of 1 point when I draw it. Now we can also see other things like document setup and preferences that we can easily get to as well here. And the document setup is basically what we've already set it to, which is inches, and then well, let's see, we've got some other things here which we're really not going to worry about right now, so I'm not going to change anything. Now over on the right we have our main panels. I'm going to go ahead and expand these panels so that we can take a look at the different panels that are here. The top ones are our color ones. And we even have cooler, which is actually synced with the cloud, which we'll talk about at a later time. Now underneath that we have swatches, brushes, and symbols. Now you can see that swatches, brushes, and symbols are already populated with stuff. So what we want to do is actually get rid of all those things. So I'm going to click on the red swatch, and the reason I'm clicking on that red swatch is so that I can select it as the start swatch, and then I'm going to shift click on the last brown swatch. The reason I'm doing that is to select all those swatches, then you go to the trash can and delete those swatches. Now, after the gradient one, I'm going to click on the orange gradient and click on the last purple and delete those as well. Now, I want to make sure that I'm back to the preset or the default drawing mode. So I'm going to click on the little icon right underneath there, and you'll see that's the default stroke and fill. Now, over in brushes, we're going to do a similar thing. Let's get rid of all these brushes on the top row by clicking on one, shift-clicking on the others, and then pressing the delete. And we're going to leave basic, so we'll click on the one after that, and the ones at the bottom, shift-click, and then delete those as well. We don't want any brushes. And then we'll click back on basic just to make sure that it is your basic brush that's selected. Now I'm going to go over to symbols, and I'm going to click on the first one, shift click on the last, and I'm going to delete all of those so we have no symbols at all in this file. Then down in graphic styles, I want to go actually to the third one over. The first one, well, actually we can go to the second one and we can delete that because I really don't see any reason to have it. So it says drop shadow. So I guess it does have a drop shadow applied. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that second one and go to the last one. So we've deleted everything except for the very first graphic style, which if you click on it, you'll notice is the same default style that we started off with. So this is just a way for us to clean out our Illustrator file so that we get rid of stuff. Now I'm going to go back to stroke and swatches, so those are my default things, and you'll notice that we can actually drag these things around a little bit if we want to make them a little bit less tall or smaller. Now I also want to bring up another window. In the window menu we have a lot of different panels, and one of those panels I really like is the Transform, Align, and Pathfinder. So I'm going to bring those up so I can put them over here above my appearance, and you'll see as I drag the entire panel over, I get a little blue bar right above that appearance menu, and that allows me to drag it in. So here's basically what we've got. We've got our Transform. Let's see, I can go ahead and close that down just a little bit. I'll close it just to that. Any of these panels that have these double lines or double arrows means that you can open them up a little bit, which is kind of cool. I'm going to get the stroke down to small, and then let's see, I want layers to be opened. I can make graphic styles a little smaller. And now let's see, I've got stroke small, swatches, and color, and I'm pretty much good there. Now the last thing that I want to do is actually save this as a preset, or save this as a workspace. So I'm going to go to Essentials, and then say New Workspace, and I called this DME Default. Now it might bark at me saying it already has that and it'll override it, but what that does is that gives me an easy way to get back to this default panel or panel group or workspace so that I can get to these tasks easily. If you wanted to go back to Essentials, then you'd click on it, and then I want to reset this back to what it started with before I started manipulating things. So then you'll notice, of course, there are other presets for you to play with, and of course you can make these kind of work the way you want. If you have two monitors, you might prefer to put some of these panels over on the right hand side and not have them on the main workspace. For tutorials and things that I do in class, of course I'm going to have them always available, so I'm going to typically use the DME default for what I do in class. Now that we have this document and we have our setup all done, I'm going to save this document. And I'm saving it right now. I'm saving it in a temp folder, but I want you to save it in a folder that you might use as a resources folder or a very special folder you know not to delete. That's what's important, is that you don't delete this, because once you've saved this file and close it, then the next time you go to File New, what I want you to do is go to Profile and browse for that file that you had just saved and open it. What this does is this opens that as a profile itself. Now the first time you go to browse, it will send you into this really archaic folder where you'll see all the other number of profiles that are there. But I just go ahead and put it in a different folder, and I just make sure I don't delete it. Anyway, now when you choose that as your profile, you'll see that it has the inches set up like we had before. It has the RGB set up, and then when you click OK, you'll notice that you come into a file that does not have any swatches, symbols, or anything else in it, which means it's ready for you to start adding work to like a professional designer. When you open up a different document, so I'm just doing this so that you see the difference. When you open up the preset, I want you to delete all of the swatches and stuff that you're not actually using in your work. All the graphic styles, all the swatches, all the symbols, all the brushes should be deleted unless you are actually using them in your project or have been using them for your project. It's very important that you get rid of extraneous information because that will matter as you go forward in design. So go ahead and complete those files and create a screenshot of your workspace after you have set up that file and set up your workspace, and submit it with your assignment. Thanks.